Jocelyn Ortega. Lucia and Leo Krim, aged 6 and 2 respectively, were murdered in the late afternoon of October 25, 2012, at the La Rochelle apartment building on the Upper West Side of Manhattan in New York City. The children's part-time caretaker, Jocelyn Ortega, was convicted of stabbing the children to death with kitchen knives while their mother Marina Krim and 3-year-old sister Nessie were a few blocks away at a swimming lesson. Upon returning home, their mother and sister found Lucia and Leo dead in a bathtub at the family apartment. Ortega then began stabbing herself repeatedly in the neck. She survived the self-inflicted wounds. This scene was also witnessed by the apartment building's superintendent and his 10-year-old son. Ortega told police investigators Lucia, who suffered defensive wounds, had fought back when she was attacked. She said 2-year-old Leo was sleeping when the attack started. Ortega claimed she was upset that her employer, Marina Krim, responded to her inquiry about needing more hours due to money troubles by suggesting she could do housework. The NYPD and friends of the nanny said she indicated that she was upset because the Krims would not pay her more money. However, family and friends who knew the Krims, as well as Ortega's own family, said that Ortega was close to the children and was treated very well by the Krims. The Krims paid for her plane tickets to see her family in the Dominican Republic and, on one occasion, accompanied her on vacation there. In November 2012, Ortega was indicted on 2 counts of first-degree murder. Over the next 5 years, prior to trial, Ortega made approximately 90 court appearances. Ortega was found guilty of first-degree murder and second-degree murder on April 18, 2018. On May 14, 2018, she was sentenced to life in prison without parole. In his ruling, Judge Caro said Ortega was pure evil, blaming Ortega and her family for not seeking medical treatment for Ortega's depression and anxiety, and for hiding her condition from the Krims. Agnes Wong. Agnes Wong was sent to prison for 5 years after she inflicted a string of sadistic punishments on 17-month-old Hugo Wang because he cried for his mother. She scorched the youngster with a hairdryer and eventually killed him when she swung him against a bed by his ankles. Wong, an immigrant from Malaysia, came to Britain in 2003 and found work in a Chinese restaurant in Southport, Lancashire. There she met Hugo's mother, Zhen Wang, an illegal immigrant who asked her to care for her son while she worked to pay off a £20,000 debt to people traffickers. Wong agreed and began child-minding Hugo full-time at her flat near Manchester, with his parents visiting once a week. In their absence, she embarked on a campaign of abuse, hitting him all the time. She beat Hugo so hard with a ruler that it snapped and also bit his hand and arm. During her trial, Wong said, "I did not want to harm him, but at the same time I wanted him to be good." The extent of the torture only became clear in January when Hugo was admitted to hospital with head injuries. He later died, and a post-mortem examination suggested he had been swung against a bed or a couch. Wong, 28, denied murder but was convicted at Preston Crown Court of manslaughter. Marquita Birch. Marquita Birch was babysitting William Cunningham of Cincinnati on May 22 when he died from a brain injury the next day, according to County Prosecutor Joseph Dieters. Dieters said the 26-year-old did not seek medical treatment for the toddler when she injured him, dumped his body in a garbage bag, hid the boy in her cousin's home, and reported him missing. A Hamilton County grand jury in Cincinnati indicted Birch on single counts of murder and involuntary manslaughter and 2 counts of endangering children. Birch also is charged with tampering with evidence and gross abuse of a corpse. The charges carry a maximum sentence of life in prison. Birch's attorney did not immediately return calls for comment. Birch initially reported the toddler missing, but was taken in for questioning after police found discrepancies in her story. The woman later recanted her story, telling Covington detectives that Cunningham had fallen down the stairs in her apartment on Sheehan Avenue in Cincinnati. She said she had given him ibuprofen and had found his lifeless body the next morning. The suspect then directed Covington detectives to an apartment on Winton Road where she said she had taken the boy's body. The toddler's corpse was discovered in a hall closet within the unit. Frederick Mitchell. A Sedamsville resident was indicted on Friday for the death of an infant while in his care. Frederick Mitchell, 20, was charged after authorities say 6-month-old Elliot Megardichian was taken to Cincinnati Children's Hospital on March 8 because he was not breathing. 2 days later, Elliot died from his injuries. On Tuesday, investigators ruled the infant's death as a homicide. According to police, Elliot was injured while in the care of Mitchell at his home on MT Hope Avenue, an acquaintance of the child's mother. Court records indicate that Mitchell knowingly caused serious physical harm to the 6-month-old. Mitchell was originally charged with felonious assault prior to Elliot's death. On Friday, he was charged with 2 counts of murder and 1 count of felonious assault. On Monday, his bond was raised to $1 million, and he is currently being held at the Hamilton County Justice Center. If convicted, Mitchell faces the possibility of life in prison. William Howard Lale. A Catawba County jury found a Hickory man guilty of second-degree murder in the death of a 20-month-old boy in May 2013. The jury found William Howard Lale III guilty Tuesday for the death of his former girlfriend's son, Jaden Sandlin. Howard was also found guilty of 2 counts of felony child abuse against Sandlin and his sister Kylie Sandlin, and 2 counts of non-felonious child abuse. Officials say Lale was sentenced between 17 and 22 years of active prison with an additional 300 days to be served for the non-felonious child abuse cases. Reports say Lale was a caretaker for the victim and his sister. His testimony throughout the trial alleged that he left the children unattended in a bathtub where they suffered burns from scalding water. Sandlin had 130 injuries to his body, including the severe bruising on the top of his head and bottom of his feet. Whitney Withers, the mother of the children, was arrested in May 2013 and accused of child abuse. Officials say Withers pleaded guilty to 1 count of child abuse inflicting serious bodily injury and 4 counts of child abuse inflicting serious physical injury in May 2017. She was sentenced to 3 to 8 years in prison. Withers was not charged in connection with the murder of her son. Dylan Shoemaker. This is Dylan Shoemaker. Dylan Shoemaker was left to babysit his girlfriend's young child, and by the end of the night the child was dead. According to court documents, Shoemaker fatally beat the child when he would not stop crying. He had his sad face ready and his privilege intact when State Supreme Court Justice M. William Bowler was ready to hand down punishment, except one thing was unexpectedly standing in his way: his own words. Teenager found guilty and was sentenced to a maximum punishment of a life sentence of 25 years. That was it for today's video. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to our channel and hit the like button.